Cynthia sat on her bed, legs crossed, eating ground nuts and listening to soft music on her phone. She had just finished her homework and was about to scroll through her chats when a message popped up from an unknown number. "You looked really beautiful today. Your smile did something to me." She blinked. "Who is this one again?" she said to herself, laughing quietly. She typed, "Sorry, who is this?" The person replied immediately, "Wow, you're acting brand new now? It's me, Caleb." Cynthia's eyes widened. "Caleb? As in the same Caleb every girl in school talks about? The one who plays football, smells like fresh soap and vanilla, and makes every girl's heart do backflips?" She stared at the message again, her heart suddenly beating fast. He thought she was someone else. Definitely. There was no way Caleb would randomly text her, of all people. Another message came. "Babe, don't play with me, oh. I know you saw me after school." You waved and smiled. Cynthia covered her mouth and laughed nervously. He thought she was Joy, the popular girl with long braids, sharp nails, and loud perfume. It had to be a mistake. She was about to type, "I think you texted the wrong person," but she paused. What if she didn't correct him? Her best friend Peace had always said she needed to take risks, and it wasn't like she was doing anything bad, just talking. So she replied, "Maybe I smiled because you look nice too." Delivered. Read. Typing. Aw, so you finally admit you like me too? Cynthia's mouth dropped. This was crazy. This was dangerous. This was exciting. The next day at school, Cynthia tried to avoid Caleb. She hid behind her locker door, took the long route to class, and even ducked behind a group of tall boys near the school gate. Peace noticed and dragged her aside. "Why are you acting like a ninja today?" Cynthia whispered everything. Peace screamed, "You mean Caleb fine? Boy, Caleb thinks you're Joy and now you're both texting love messages?" "Shh," Cynthia looked around. "Keep your voice down." "But babe," Peace said, giggling, "this is the most exciting thing you've done in your entire life. What's the plan?" Cynthia sighed. "I don't know. I like talking to him. He's sweet and funny in text, but he doesn't know it's me." "Then show him." "I'm scared." Peace held her hand. "Just be you. If he doesn't like the real Cynthia, then he doesn't deserve you." That night, Caleb texted again. "I can't stop thinking about your voice. I wish I could talk to you all night." Cynthia replied, "What if the person you're talking to isn't who you think?" He replied, "What do you mean?" Her hands trembled. She stared at the screen, not sure what to type next. She wanted to tell him, but she was scared of what would happen. Instead, she replied, "I mean, maybe you don't know everything about me yet." Caleb sent a voice note. His voice was soft. "It's okay. I just want to know the real you, whoever you are." Cynthia smiled, her heart doing tiny flips. Secrets and butterflies. Cynthia didn't sleep well that night. She kept staring at Caleb's voice note, playing it again and again. The way he said, "I just want to know the real you," kept echoing in her head like music. She wanted to tell him the truth, but what if he got angry? What if he laughed at her? Or worse, told the whole school? By morning, her stomach was full of butterflies. Not the cute, romantic kind. The help, I'm in trouble kind. At school, Caleb was standing by the school gate talking to Joy. Cynthia's heart dropped. Joy was laughing loudly, touching his arm. Caleb smiled, but looked a little confused. As Cynthia walked past, his eyes caught hers for a second. 1 second. Just one. But it was enough. He smiled. Cynthia quickly looked away, nearly bumping into a tree. Later in class, Peace slipped a note to Cynthia under the desk. "Did he talk to you?" Cynthia scribbled back. "Just eye contact." My brain stopped working. Peace looked at her and shook her head, smiling. Then she whispered, "Tonight, you're telling him. No more hiding." Cynthia bit her lip. She wasn't ready. That evening, Caleb texted again, "I miss you." Cynthia stared at the message for 5 whole minutes. Then she replied, "We've never actually talked in person." He replied fast, "True, but I feel like I know you." You're not like other girls. You make me laugh. You're honest. You care. Cynthia's heart melted like butter on hot jollof rice. She typed, "There's something you need to know about me." But just as she was about to send it, her phone rang. It was Caleb. She nearly dropped the phone. She froze. He was calling her. Peace, sitting beside her on the bed, screamed, "Pick it, pick it." Cynthia whispered, "I can't. What if he hears my voice and finds out it's not Joy?" "Exactly," Peace grinned. "That's the point." The phone stopped ringing. Then it buzzed again. A voice note. She tapped play with shaking fingers. "Hey, I don't know why you don't want to talk on the phone, but it's okay. I still want to talk to you even if it's just text. Just promise me you're not lying to me." Cynthia's eyes filled with tears. She felt guilty. He was being real, and she was hiding. She replied, "I'm not who you think I am, but I wish you knew me." Caleb replied, "Then tell me, who are you really?" Silence. Her hands were sweating. Peace whispered, "Now, Cynthia, be brave." Cynthia took a deep breath and typed, "My name is Cynthia. I'm not Joy. I'm sorry I didn't tell you earlier. I didn't mean to lie. I was scared, but every word I said to you was true." Sent, delivered, read, and then no reply. The silence between us. Cynthia stared at her screen. Read, no reply. Every second felt like an hour. The silence from Caleb was so loud, it echoed in her chest. "Maybe I should unsend it," she whispered, pacing her room. Peace shook her head. "No way, you told the truth. Whatever happens now, you did the right thing. But what if he hates me? Then he was never the one." Cynthia flopped onto her bed, face down. "I'm never texting a boy again." Peace rolled her eyes. "Please, you'll text again by tomorrow." The next day at school, Cynthia avoided everyone. She wore a hoodie, sat at the back of the class, and barely looked up when her teacher called her name. At break time, she saw Caleb by the cafeteria, sitting alone. No Joy, no football team, just him, staring at his phone. She quickly turned away. But her heart, it was doing backflips again. Later that evening, still no message from Caleb. Cynthia sat quietly in her room, drawing sketches in her notebook. One of the sketches was a boy holding a phone with a heart floating out of the screen. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. New message from Caleb. Her heart jumped. She opened it slowly, like a bomb that might explode. "So, you're Cynthia." She didn't know what to reply. But before she could think, another message came. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Her fingers moved on their own. "Because I thought you'd stop talking to me. Maybe I would have, but you still should have told me." Silence. Then, "Still, I meant what I said. You're different. I like that." Cynthia's mouth opened slightly. "You like me?" "Yeah. I was confused at first, but now I think I get it. The person I liked in those texts was you, not the name." Tears filled her eyes. "So, what now?" A moment passed. Then Caleb replied, "Now, we start again. This time, for real." The next day at school, Cynthia walked into school with Peace beside her, shaking like a leaf. "What if he changes his mind?" she whispered. "Then I'll slap him with your sketchbook," Peace said. But just then, Caleb appeared. He walked straight up to Cynthia and smiled. "Hi," he said softly. "You look even better in real life." Cynthia blushed. "Thanks." He reached out his hand. "Want to walk with me?" She looked at Peace. Peace winked. Cynthia took his hand. They walked away, side by side, smiling like kids with a secret. First dates and little fights. It had been 2 weeks since Caleb and Cynthia started talking openly. They didn't call it dating yet, but everyone in school noticed something had changed. Cynthia smiled more. Caleb came to class early just to sit near her. They shared lunch, traded playlists, and sometimes texted under the table when the teacher was talking. It was like a little world just for them. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Caleb messaged her. Wear something nice. I'm coming to take you out. Cynthia stared at the text like it was written in gold. Peace burst into her room like a hurricane. Date, day we. Cynthia was shaking. What if I trip or say something weird? Peace laughed. Then he'll fall for you harder. Don't overthink it. Just be yourself, again. The date? They went to a small suya spot, then bought ice cream and walked around the park. Caleb made her laugh so hard, she almost dropped her ice cream. Cynthia, he said, I never thought someone like you would change my whole vibe. She looked at him. What vibe? You know, cool guy, football, no stress, but now I check my phone every 5 minutes like a lovesick goat. Cynthia laughed, her heart doing cartwheels. You're not a goat. No, he said, stepping closer, but I'm falling for you. And just like that, she felt like she was flying. But not all days were perfect. One day, Caleb was standing by Joy's locker, laughing with her. Cynthia saw them. Her smile disappeared. Peace noticed. Do you want to talk to him? No, Cynthia said quickly. It's fine. But it wasn't fine. Later that night, she sent a message. You and Joy looked really happy. Today. Caleb replied, Are you upset? Number, just saying. Cynthia, don't do that thing where you say just saying, but you're really hurt. She was silent. Then Caleb called. She picked up. Cyn, he said, using the nickname he gave her. Joy and I were just talking about the school project. That's all. But if you're ever feeling insecure, just tell me. Don't bottle it. I don't want to lose you. You won't, he said. Not unless you run away. And I'm not letting you go. She smiled. Okay. A few days later, they were back to laughing, joking, and teasing each other about their favorite foods. Caleb gave her a small drawing notebook. I noticed you always draw on scraps, so I got you this. Cynthia opened it slowly. Her heart nearly exploded. On the first page, he had written, To the girl who made me believe in real love, the test of trust. The school announced it was time for the annual Literary and Arts Week, a week of competitions, drama performances, and talent shows. Cynthia was excited. It was the one week where quiet students like her could shine. She decided to join the art competition, and Peace signed her up immediately. I told you your sketches would take you places, Peace said proudly. But Cynthia didn't expect what happened next. On the second day of the event, Joy posted something strange on her WhatsApp status. Some people lie to get attention. Even the quiet ones are not innocent. People in school started talking. Someone told Cynthia that Joy found out about the texting story, that Caleb had been texting Cynthia thinking she was Joy, and that Cynthia had kept it going for days. Cynthia's heart dropped. At lunch, Caleb sat with her as usual, but his face looked serious. Is it true? He asked. Cynthia frowned. What? That people are saying you let me believe you were Joy for almost 2 weeks? She nodded slowly. Yes, but I told you the truth myself. I know, but now everyone's acting like I was a fool, like I chased the wrong girl. There was silence. Then he added, and maybe I did. That sentence broke her heart. She stood up and walked away, trying not to cry in front of the whole school. That evening, no texts, no calls, nothing from Caleb. Peace came over. He'll come around, she said. But Cynthia shook her head. Maybe, just a mistake. Don't ever say that, Peace said firmly. You told him the truth. If he can't see your heart, that's on him. 2 days later, finals of the art competition. Cynthia stood nervously beside her painting. It was a simple but powerful piece. A girl with her heart in her hand, offering it to someone with a blindfold. People clapped. Judges nodded. But Cynthia didn't care about winning. She just wanted Caleb to look at her and see her for real again. After the show, as the crowd cleared, Caleb walked up to her, holding a folded paper. I saw your painting, he said. It was honest. He handed her the note and walked away. She opened it. Inside, he had drawn a small sketch of a boy wearing a blindfold, finally removing it. Below it, he wrote, Sorry it took me so long to see you. Cynthia's eyes filled with tears. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Caleb. "If you'll still have me, I want to start again. For real this time. No blindfolds." She smiled and replied, "I never stopped wanting you. A night to remember?" The school announced a Valentine's dinner night for senior students, a semi-formal evening with music, food, dancing, and lots of cameras. Everyone started pairing up quickly. There was gossip in every hallway. But Cynthia didn't care about all that. She just wanted to know if Caleb would ask her. 2 days before the event, still no invite. She acted cool in school, but inside, she was folding emotionally like puff puff in hot oil. "What if he's waiting to ask someone else?" she asked Peace. Peace raised an eyebrow. "He drew you a sketch, forgave the past, and looks at you like you're the last bottle of cold Fanta on a sunny day. Girl, relax." But Cynthia wasn't convinced. Until that evening, she stepped outside her house and saw something on her gate. It was a cardboard sign with red marker. "Will you be my date, Cynthia?" "Caleb?" She turned to find him across the street, holding a bouquet of suya sticks and chocolates. She burst out laughing. "Suya and chocolate?" she asked, walking up to him. He grinned. "You love both, so why not together?" She shook her head, smiling. "Yes, I'll be your date." Valentine's night, Cynthia wore a simple wine-colored dress. Her braids were styled up and Peace had helped her put on some light makeup. She didn't look like a different person, just a more confident version of herself. When Caleb saw her, he froze. "Wow," he said. "You look like a dream I don't want to wake up from." Cynthia blushed so hard she almost melted. They walked in together, hand in hand. At the dinner, they ate, laughed, danced slowly under fairy lights, and ignored every whisper around them. At one point, Joy passed by with her new date and gave Cynthia a fake smile. Cynthia didn't even flinch. She had what she wanted now, not fame or attention, but someone who saw her and chose her. Later that night, Caleb walked her to her gate. Under the soft moonlight, he looked into her eyes. "I've liked you in text. I've liked you in silence. I've liked you in art. But now, I just really like you." Cynthia whispered, "I feel safe with you." He smiled. "Then I'll always protect that feeling." They hugged. Not too long, not too short. Just enough to say everything their words couldn't. Pressure, promises, and proof. The second term was ending, and final exams were getting close. Teachers became scarier. Notes piled up like dirty laundry. Everyone seemed tense. Even Caleb. Cynthia noticed it first though, stopped texting as much. No more funny voice notes. No more morning good luck genius messages. Just busy, I'll text later. And sometimes he didn't. One Thursday afternoon, Cynthia waited by the school gate like usual. Caleb didn't show. She walked home alone, hugging her sketchbook tighter than usual. At home, she flung her bag aside and sighed. Peace called her. "You okay?" "I think he's ghosting me," Cynthia mumbled. "Why?" "He's distant. He's not like before." Peace paused, then said, "Or maybe something's going on, and he doesn't know how to talk about it." That night, she gathered courage and sent a voice note. "Hey, I know exams are hard. I'm not angry, just confused. You're not yourself lately. If there's something going on, I want to be here. Not as a girlfriend, but as a friend who cares. Talk to me, Caleb." No reply for 2 days. Then finally, message. "Come to the football field now." At the football field, Cynthia arrived just as the sun was setting. Caleb was sitting on the bench, his head down. "I didn't know how to say it," he said as she sat beside him. "Say what?" He looked at her, eyes tired. "My dad lost his job. Things are hard. I'm thinking of dropping out next term to help with work." Cynthia froze. He looked away. "That's why I pulled back. I thought maybe if I distanced myself, it'd be easier. I didn't want to drag you into my mess." She took his hand. "You're not a burden," she whispered. "You're someone I care about deeply. If you're going through a storm, I'll bring an umbrella." He blinked. "You're serious?" "I'll be your safe place if you let me." days turned into weeks. Cynthia started helping him study. Peace joined too. They formed a small study squad. Sometimes they met at the library. Sometimes they just walked and talked. Cynthia even sold some of her sketches as bookmarks to raise small money for Caleb's study materials. He never asked for help, but she gave it anyway. Not out of pity, but out of love. The day before the exam, Caleb wrote her a note and passed it to her under the desk. Even if I don't write this exam perfectly, I already feel like I've passed the biggest test because I didn't lose you. She smiled, and I'm not going anywhere. The day it all made sense. Exam week came like a storm. Cynthia barely slept, and Caleb looked like a walking calculator. Peace kept everyone's spirits up by cracking dry jokes and buying groundnuts to boost brain power. Each day, Cynthia and Caleb walked into school together, side by side, quiet but close. They didn't say much, but their silence was full of meaning. The night before the final exam, they sat outside Caleb's house under the stars, books scattered between them. I'm scared, Caleb admitted. Cynthia tilted her head. Of what? Failing? Of not living up to everything you see in me. She touched his arm. I don't see perfection. I see effort, and I respect that more than anything. He looked at her gently. Cynthia, what are we? She blinked. What do you mean? I mean, I know we've said we like each other, but I want more clarity. After this exam, things might change. I might need to take jobs, travel, life might get harder. But through all that, I want to know I have you, officially. Her heartbeat doubled. You mean like girlfriend and boyfriend officially? He nodded. Yeah, the serious kind. She grinned. Then yes, I've been yours in my heart for a long time. He smiled, relief washing over him. Exam day, Cynthia wrote like her pen was possessed. Caleb stayed focused, calm, and determined. After the exam, they met outside the hall. I'm free, Peace screamed, throwing her biro in the air. Caleb turned to Cynthia. Come with me. He led her behind the school, near the mango tree, where they once had their first long conversation. There, hanging on the branch, was a small paper heart. Cynthia gasped. You did this? He nodded. Turn it over. She flipped the paper. It read, in this crazy world, you're my calm. In the middle of storms, you're my shelter. Let's face life together. No blindfolds, no lies, just us. She looked up at him. Tears filled her eyes. But this time, they were the happy kind. I love you, Caleb, she said softly. He stepped forward and held her hands. And I love you, Cynthia. No music, no crowd, just two teenagers under a mango tree beginning something real. Yes, time for a mix of joy, celebration, and a twist that'll test their bond even more. When dreams and decisions collide, the last exam paper felt like lifting a bag of cement off everyone's shoulders. Students screamed. Shoes were thrown in the air. Someone even poured sachet water on their head like they just won Big Brother. Cynthia, Caleb, and Peace walked out of the hall laughing, free at last. Later that day, Peace organized a small freedom hangout at her house with snacks, soda, and plenty of gist. Music played softly as they all chilled in the backyard. Laughter filled the air. It felt like the start of something new. You know, Peace said, we actually made it. No breakdown, no expulsion, no slapping any teacher. Caleb raised his Fanta to survival. They all cheered. Cynthia leaned on Caleb's shoulder, peaceful and lighthearted. Everything was finally calm. Until Caleb's phone rang. The twist, he stepped aside to take the call. When he returned, his face looked unreadable. Cynthia sat up. What happened? He sat down slowly. That was my uncle in Abuja. He got me an apprenticeship in tech. Peace blinked. That's great news, right? It is, Caleb said, but I have to leave in 1 week. Silence. Cynthia felt the happiness in her chest slide down into her stomach. So, you're going? She asked. He nodded. It's a huge chance. Free accommodation. He'll sponsor my certification. But I'd be far from you. Later that night, Cynthia lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. "Caleb, can I call?" She answered instantly. "I don't want us to break up," he said gently, "but I can't say it won't be hard." "I won't stop you from chasing your dream," she said, "but I'm scared." "Me too," he admitted, "but what if we made a plan?" "A plan?" "Video calls, weekend texts, updates, and after 6 months, I'll come back for a visit." She thought for a moment. "Do you think we'll survive long distance?" "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I believe in us. That's enough for me to try." She smiled softly. "Then I'll try too." 1 week later, they met at the park one last time before he traveled. Caleb handed her a tiny key on a string. "What's this?" she asked. "It's the key to my sketchbook locker at home. When you miss me, draw something in it." Cynthia gave him a tiny envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "A letter for you to open only when you miss me badly." They hugged long, tight, and full of hope. No promises they couldn't keep. Just honesty and heart, doubts and decisions. 2 months had passed since Caleb moved to Abuja. At first, things were sweet. Video calls every weekend, long texts filled with "I miss you" and "I'm proud of you." Cynthia even wore the key necklace every day. But as weeks turned into months, things started to change. Caleb's end. His training got intense. Sometimes he forgot to text back for hours. Sometimes even a whole day. Cynthia didn't complain. She just waited, hoping. One day, he finally replied, "Sorry, exhausted. Let's talk later. Miss you always." But that always felt a little thinner than before. Cynthia's end. She focused on drawing and started volunteering at a summer school nearby. Kids loved her. One boy, Daniel, a tutor from another school, noticed her during break. "You're the artist, right?" he asked. She nodded, shy. "Kind of. Your smile is brighter than your pencil lines." She blinked. "That's the worst line I've ever heard." They both laughed. Over the next few days, Daniel didn't push. He just hung around, helped with the kids, made her laugh. But Cynthia found herself checking her phone less. Waiting for Caleb's message didn't feel urgent anymore. And that scared her. That night, Peace called. "I saw you and Daniel. Are you catching feelings?" Cynthia froze. Maybe? I don't know." "Have you told Caleb?" "Tell him what? That a guy made me laugh for 2 days and now I'm questioning everything?" Peace paused. "Cynthia, love isn't about never feeling confused. It's about choosing who you want to grow with, who you're willing to wait for when things feel shaky." Later that week, Caleb finally called. His voice was tired but happy. "Guess what? I'm top of my class. And my uncle said he might open a tech hub and I'll be part of the team." "That's amazing," Cynthia said, smiling. Then he added, "But I might have to stay longer, maybe a year." Silence. Then Caleb asked, "Are you still mine?" Her heart beat fast. "Yes," she whispered, "but I've felt distracted." "You can tell me anything, Cynthia." She paused. "There's someone here. He's nice, but I still want you. I just needed to say it." There was silence on his end. Then, "Thank you for being honest. That means more than anything." Later that night, she opened her sketchbook and drew a rose missing 2 petals. Under it, she wrote, "Even strong flowers lose pieces in the wind, but they still bloom." She sent it to Caleb. He replied, "We're blooming, even if it's slow, and I still choose you." The visit and the vibe shift. It was mid-December when Caleb sent the message Cynthia had been dreaming of. "Coming home for Christmas. Only for 5 days, but I need to see you." Cynthia screamed so loud, her mom thought she stepped on a rat. She started planning her outfit that same night. Peace teased her. "Just don't faint when you see him. Hug first, cry later." The day of the visit, they agreed to meet at their old spot the mango tree near school. Cynthia got there early, heart racing, breath shaky, fingers cold from excitement. Then she saw him. Caleb, taller, leaner, his smile still soft, but his eyes wiser. She ran to him. No words, He held her tight, like he'd been holding his breath since the day he left. "I missed you," he whispered. "Me too," she said, eyes watering. They sat under the tree, catching up, laughing, sharing pictures, talking about everything and nothing. It felt like home. But then something shifted. The next day, they met up again. But this time, Caleb was quiet. He kept checking his phone, looking distracted. "What's wrong?" Cynthia finally asked. He hesitated, then sighed. "I didn't know how to bring this up." "Bring what up?" "There's someone in Abuja who likes me." Cynthia blinked. "She's just a friend. But last week, she told me she's been waiting for me to notice her. I told her I had someone, but I didn't expect how complicated I'd feel." Cynthia stared at him. "You're telling me this now, after we just started feeling okay again?" "I didn't cheat," he said quickly. "I didn't even reply her message after that. But I had to be honest, because you were honest with me when you felt distracted." Cynthia stood up slowly, heart pounding. "I waited, I stayed, I trusted you. And I didn't break that trust," Caleb said gently. "But if we're going to keep building this, we need to know what we're really fighting for." Later that night, Cynthia sat in bed, replaying everything. She opened her old sketchbook, flipping through drawings. Then she found one. 2 birds flying in different directions, connected by the same string. She smiled sadly. Maybe love wasn't always neat. Maybe it was messy, honest, and brave. She picked up her phone and texted, "Let's meet tomorrow, not to argue, but to talk. If we're going to keep choosing each other, we need to choose with open eyes." He replied, "I'm ready if you are." Letting go or leaning in, they met one last time before Caleb was to return to Abuja. Same mango tree, same soft breeze, different energy. Cynthia came with a notebook. Caleb came with a letter. No hand-holding this time, just eyes locked in quiet understanding. Cynthia spoke first. "I've thought about everything. The time apart, the distractions, the temptations." She opened the notebook. I listed all the things I felt, hurt, scared, confused, but also proud of you, inspired by your growth, still deeply in love with you. Caleb swallowed. "I wrote something too," he said, handing her a folded letter. She opened it slowly. "If love was a test, we've already passed the hard questions. But sometimes, even perfect students need a break between exams. I love you. But more than that, I respect you. I don't want us to break, but maybe we need to breathe." She looked up, teary-eyed. "You're asking for space?" He nodded. "Not because I love you less, but because I want to love you better. I want to build me, and I want you to build you." Silence. Heavy, but not cold. Then Cynthia smiled sadly. "You know what's crazy?" "What?" "We've never kissed, never even gone on a real date, but I feel more connected." She continued, "Because I am. And if people from our past are starting to play games, I need us to be clear or I'll walk away." His eyes softened. "I should have told you. Joy messaged me, said some things. Why didn't you say so? I didn't want to bring drama into us, but hiding it created more." They sat in silence. Then Caleb said, "Let's do this. Let's promise something." Cynthia raised an eyebrow. "No secrets, no hiding messages. If someone flirts, we talk. If we're upset, we say it. I want this to be real, even if it's messy." She nodded. "Real over perfect, always." They sealed the moment, not with a kiss, but by deleting every negative DM and writing 2 lines in Cynthia's sketchbook. "We're not public to prove, we're public to inspire. Love grows best in truth, not noise." The big misunderstanding: everything was going well until a photo popped online. Cynthia was at a school art show. She took a group photo with Daniel and other volunteers. One of Daniel's friends cropped the picture, making it look like she was only with Daniel, smiling too much. The caption read, "Looks like Caleb's girl has a plan B." Within hours, Caleb saw it. He didn't call, didn't text, just went silent. Cynthia tried calling, no answer. She knew something was wrong. Later that night, she found him near their mango tree, I saw the picture, he said. Did you believe it? She asked softly. He looked torn. I wanted not to, but I didn't like how I felt. Tears filled her eyes. So, after all we've built, one post shook everything? He looked away. Maybe I still have insecurities. Maybe I still need to heal. She nodded slowly. Then maybe we need space again, but this time, not out of love, out of necessity. And just like that, they paused again. The pause that hurt more. Weeks passed. No text. No calls. Peace noticed Cynthia getting quieter. Caleb buried himself in work. One night, Peace sat Cynthia down. You're not breathing, girl. You're just existing. Cynthia replied, I just want peace. Peace smiled gently. Then maybe that's the sign. Heal. For real this time. Cynthia agreed. She deleted the cropped photo, blocked gossip blogs, started journaling, started therapy at school. At the same time, Caleb opened up to a mentor. I love her, he said, but my fears make me ruin what's good. His mentor smiled, then fixed the fear, not the girl. The turnaround. Cynthia got selected to represent her school in an art competition. Her painting, 2 hands holding a cracked heart, stitched with thread, title, Still Worth It. It went viral online for the right reasons. Caleb saw it. He cried. He finally texted, I was wrong. I let fear speak louder than love. Can I see you? She replied, meet me at the tree one last time. The final talk. They sat under the tree, just like old times. I didn't cheat, she said. I know, he whispered. I didn't want perfect, she added. I just wanted you. Honest, growing, trying. Caleb reached into his bag. He brought out a new sketchbook. The cover said, Our next chapter. He handed her a pen. You write the first word, he said. I'll write the next. She smiled, then wrote, Grace. He wrote under it, Together, building a new kind of love. They didn't rush. They didn't post. They just lived. Small dates, study hangouts, long walks, short voice notes, apologies when needed, laughter without reason. Even Joy texted one day, You two proved me wrong. Respect. Graduation and goodbye, maybe not. Graduation day came. Tears, hugs, yearbook signatures. Cynthia was going to study fine arts in Benin. Caleb was staying in Lagos, working part-time and taking online tech courses. They stood under the tree one last time. She whispered, So, what now? He smiled, brought out 2 necklaces with puzzle pendants. One read, Grow. The other, Glow. Let's grow apart if we must, he said, placing one around her neck, so we can glow together again when the time is right. She hugged him, tight, this time not in fear, but in faith. The end of the story. 1. Have you ever experienced a love that needed space to grow? How did it turn out? 2. Do you think Cynthia and Caleb made the right decision by pausing their relationship to heal individually? 3. What moment in the story felt the most relatable to you and why? Give us your reply at the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button for other stories.